Jewish mysticism may seem like a contradiction in terms. The mystics seek the direct experience of and union with God. David Ariel, an authority on Jewish mysticism, points out that Rabbinic Judaism is anti-mystical, or at least it attempts to neutralize the mystical impulse inherent in all religions. Of course, we find that there is a certain level of leadership in all religions who are anti-mysticism. This is not unique to Judaism. But this was not always the case in Judaism. The rabbis at the time of the early rabbinic period, 70 AD to 200 AD, were well aware that in times past, men had had direct, intimate contact with God. At the time of Adam, man communicated directly and easily with God. Abraham, Moses, and the prophets also had an intimate relationship with God. But the rabbis noted that God had gradually withdrawn from direct communication with man. Why? The rabbis believed that about the time of the return from the Babylonian exile in the 5th century BC, direct communication between God and man had come to an end. By the 1st century, they believed a great chasm had opened between God and man. At that point, writes Ariel, the Jewish people had no expectations of having a direct, unmediated relationship with God. End of quote. Judaism became a legalistic religion which substituted the observance of the law, ritual, and morality for direct mystical experience. Rabbinic Judaism, which developed into modern Judaism, has been suspicious or even hostile to mysticism ever since. According to Rabbi Devorah Jacobson, quote, the rabbinic tradition was always superstitious and fearful of any mystical movement that arose in Judaism. From very early on, the rabbis went to extremes to put hedges and fences around mystical practice and belief. End of quote. The mystic posed a threat to the system of rabbinic law, and thus to the power and authority of the rabbis who had created the system. During the early rabbinic period, the rabbis recognized that a rare individual could communicate directly with God. They believed in miracles and even recorded a number of cases where people had had prophetic experiences. But they did not want mysticism to play any role in matters of religious law. Writes Ariel, they rejected the legal admissibility of the individual religious experience, direct contact with God. They even rejected prophecy in favor of the indirect relationship with God that is possible through the fulfillment of the Torah. Thus we see that those who have desired to pursue the path of the Kabbalah and Jewish mysticism have been up against the entrenched hierarchy of Judaism, just as light bearers in every one of the world's religions have come up against the same entrenched hierarchy when it comes down to personal communion directly with God without the intercession of priest or rabbi or church or minister, etc. This is where there is the dividing of the way for all of us. The literal translation of the word Torah is teaching, but it refers to Jewish law. In the narrow sense, Torah refers to the written law, the Pentateuch, or 5 books of Moses. In the broader sense, Torah encompasses all the teachings of Judaism, its laws, doctrines, ethics, philosophy, customs, and ceremonies. This includes the oral law, the Talmud, which is the vast body of rabbinic writings on civil and religious law, and other rabbinic teachings. For the Christian, the heart and soul of Judaism is in the prophets and the patriarchs. In the prophets, we find the true mystics, and in them and in their path, we find a kinship and a similar union with God.